Does traditional education deliver or fall short in educating and nurturing children? Introducing Aligned Learning Revolution, the show that confronts conventional norms and presents dynamic alternatives to transform education. Host Kahila Sivas tackles the foundational issues within classroom walls and advocates for holistic learning opportunities. It's time to reveal the strength of the innovative, holistic neurogrowth learning approach that goes beyond conventional teaching or tutoring methods, assuring every learner of a stress-free learning journey to unlock their fullest potential. Now, join Kahila Sivas.
Elizabeth, welcome to the podcast today. How are you?
I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me, Kahila. It's an honor.
Yes, amazing. So, Elizabeth, you retired from school, right? And then now you wanted to work with students in more one-on-one as a holistic neurogrowth learning success coach.
Yes, I did.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Why did you? Was the retirement early retirement, or you just retired because you had to? Like, how did the retirement come about?
Oh, well, I did reach my full retirement age. I served for between 35, 36 years. But my husband was diagnosed with lung cancer. And so I had a pivotal decision. Do I want to do the entire school year or would I retire at that time? My heart was not ready to retire at all, but I kind of felt like I needed to be home. So I did. Mm-hmm. I will say I retired on a Friday, and Monday I was substituting the following Monday in my own position. So I definitely still have the heart to want to stay in the job.
So when you were working in the classroom, what did you notice about our system, the school system? Was there anything that was bothering you, or were you enjoying it? How was it for you?
Well, I mean, definitely over the span of those years, things have completely changed. Some things are good in terms of, some of the scientific knowledge that we have about how kids learn how to read and write, for example. But some things have definitely taken a nosedive. I really feel like it's really hard nowadays to get kids intrinsically motivated to learn and even just have a passion for learning compared to how it was when I started my career.
And why do you think is that shift?
I think there's definitely more accountability on teachers to produce results, and results are being measured in a way that is captured with numbers that aren't really reflecting true student growth, certainly not measuring affect for learning and the things that truly matter to me. So I think that's one of the reasons why it's just easier to measure. So schools are being measured against a system that's not truly capturing what children are meant to learn.
So has the students' involvement, because of the way we grade, changed over the years? Because you've been in the industry for a long time.
Yeah, the way we I think a lot of it has to do with what the teachers are expected, the standards that have been created over the years. For example, when I began teaching, I came in and for me, this was like a kid in a candy store. We had a list of objectives in each different course of study, but we weren't told how we had to do it, and we weren't handed programs. So we had the luxury to create, use our creativity, use our own personality to create what we felt was right for the kids. For example, one of the things that I believed so much in is that hands-on learning was important. I believed in giving kids authentic experiences. So like one of my first or most successful projects was we ran a fast food restaurant in our classroom. And so I took, our science was health. They had to learn about nutrition. Social studies was manners. Math, we used that opportunity for money. And, reading was a combination of fictional and nonfiction. And so every day the kids came to school knowing that they were going to be in their little cooperative groups coming to the task that they were given to do to get to that point where the restaurant would be open for business. They knew what they were ready to do. They weren't waiting for the lesson. They were ready. I had to coach them in the steps, but I really was not doing a whole lot of instructing. They were learning on their own. The pieces of writing that they made became placemats for the restaurant. We went on field trips to McDonald's to observe how an assembly line was done, and a Chinese restaurant to learn to practice their manners. We even took a field trip to a grocery store to look at the labels and to understand the cost of the things that we needed to buy to run the restaurant. We made homemade applesauce with the help of a parent volunteer. Like, it was just all authentic. And then at the end of the day, the kids ran their restaurant, and they were learning. It wasn't measurable, maybe by a test. Well, and I'm sure it would be, but it wasn't measured. What they enjoyed from that experience could not be measured in a test. So,
yeah, and isn't it true that if you start enjoying something, you remember for the rest of your life?
Absolutely.
So.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So I think those experiences don't happen anymore because in the effort to grow scores, all these programs are being produced and sold to school districts, and they're supposed to be the panacea for getting the scores up. But they're really, I just don't know that there is no such thing as a program that does it all. It's all about the teacher, really, and how they interpret it. And so it's not working. It's not working to produce those gains.
So in the school system, currently, the markings and the testing has kind of pushed out these creative ideas that teachers can come up with, right?
Absolutely. There's no time when you're expected to use the scripted manual for an hour a day. The integration is much more difficult because, again, boxed programs for each different subject area. Yeah, and there is not the promotion of that creativity or doing things outside of the box. Yeah.
So now you decided that you would become a holistic neurogrowth learning success coach.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you choose that? Why did you want it to become that?
Well, I mean, I am substituting alongside of this, but the problem with substituting is I don't know the children well. So I'm basically carrying out these activities without any ability to know how to, am I scaffolding the kids and helping them with their needs, or I'm just really getting through a day. And that's my passion, is to help change, the trajectory of a kid's life. I kind of had that opportunity as a classroom teacher to a point, but the idea of one-on-one and getting to know that whole student and impacting them exactly where they are, and not feeding them things they don't need, but giving them exactly what they do need, is extremely appealing.
Yeah. And you're also moving them forward.
Yes.
When you look at it as holistic, right? Because a lot of the time, kids just mask their real problem.
True. Very true. Yes. And, in working with a student now, it just seems like each session something new comes to the surface that I have to think about. How am I going to help him get beyond that issue? And yes, we're absolutely.
Because in the classroom, we know that our students need more.
Yeah.
Like, we can see through it, right? It's like a glass door. You can see through what's going on, but we just can't slow it down, or we don't have the time, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. When I walk through the doors now, I get bombarded with hugs. And so, you wonder, why do they need that hug so desperately? What is it underneath that? I do think about that. I mean, I just accept the love that I'm getting from them, and I know that in some way I've done something that keeps them wanting that attachment. But what is it? What is it that they are needing?
What are they needing? What do you think they're needing? What's missing?
Being noticed, recognized, encouraged.
Like, they just love being seen. I think we're not connected anymore, right? In real world, we're not connected. Like, at home, everybody's busy, right?
Yes.
These kids may be on a lot of the time devices that takes attention away. Parents are busy. Like, we're living a very busy life, so that That's why they're looking for that connection, the
Yes,
meaningful
that's so
touch.
true. Yeah, you're right, Kohila. Yeah.
So in the classroom, how much of that? I mean, you're substituting, so you're just there for a day or two, right? Is that correct? Or are
You're
you
right.
there for?
You're
Yeah.
correct.
So then, how do you leave these attachments? Like the next day, you have to leave them, right?
Yeah, that's very hard. Now, fortunately, the students that I have been substituting are the kids that were still in the building before I left, so I do know them to a point. And of course, repeated times that I've been in substituting the unfamiliar to them, but it's not the same.
So, as a holistic neurogrowth learning success coach, what do you do differently than a teacher? Because that you couldn't have done it as a teacher.
Right. Well, absolutely. The time is there for me to dig deep, find out what is under the surface, find out what they truly need, and then also expose who they are and design the things that I will do with them based around their interests, not just their gaps in their learning, but also who they are as a person, or even try to expose things that they may not have tried before, like kind of just pull them out of that shell of theirs. And to me, intrinsic learning is really what it's all about. I really want to help them to understand that learning is fun for its own sake, rewarding for its own sake, and powerful for their future. So that's, I think, something that I really, really didn't have the time as a classroom teacher to do, or even when I was as a reading specialist working in a small group, it still wasn't enough. That one-on-one really makes the difference.
Yes. So you quit about how many years ago? The actual full-time job, retired?
It's less than 2 years now.
Less than 2 years, because you had a husband who needed your help at home, and
Right.
then you decided that you have some time, I'll go do some subbing.
Yes.
But in the midst of it, you found holistic neurogrowth learning success coach. You're like, I want to deliver some meaningful connection and meaningful results and create some intrinsic motivated kids, right?
Absolutely.
That's
No
why you
doubt.
took-
Yes.
So where did your educational roots start from? Like, why did you become a teacher? Why teaching?
Well, my grandfather, he was an educator for many years. He was born way back 1895.
Wow.
And yeah, and he was born in a farm family. Like it was a little gentleman farm in Virginia, and he really stuck out in his family. He wanted an education, and against his parents' wishes, that he got himself a tutor and managed to do his high school years in 8 months. Got a college degree, and then by the age of 27, he was hired on to be the superintendent of the Caroline Public Schools in Virginia. He stayed in that job for 42 years. Was well loved in that little neck of the woods. And so that absolutely was inspirational to me. And then my grandmother, his wife, she also, which was kind of unusual at the time, she was college educated, and she opened a kindergarten in their home, in the basement of their home. So she ran a school, and I've recently connected on Facebook with people who were in her kindergarten class. Nice. Back in the day. And then, of course, my mother became a teacher and taught 5th grade. And so I kind of feel like it was definitely in my blood. My grandfather, when he did his master's thesis, I was reading through it, and he wrote something. If you don't mind, if I read,
yeah, please share with us
about teachers. This, of course, he wrote this back in 1927 or 28.
Wow.
Yeah, he said, teaching represents a unique service, unlike that of any other group of workers. The school is a kind of home to the child, and the teacher a second mother and father to the child. The teacher is concerned not only with developing in childhood the essential knowledge, habits, and skills, but with molding character, developing tastes, ideals, appreciations, and loyalties that are essential to the welfare of the child and of the interests of social order. Unfortunately, these latter products of education are so intangible that they can't be measured with precision, kind of what I was saying myself. There's no accurate check on the teacher and her functioning in this respect. Therefore, the best assurance that these concomitants or secondary learning products will be provided for properly is had by placing in the schools the very highest type of teachers who are well prepared, intellectually alive, professionally ambitious, and well paid. So that was that was 1927. So I kind of feel like my grandfather represented a little bit of an outside of the box mentality. I know he was instrumental in desegregation of the schools back in the 60s. So yeah.
What was his name?
Oh, William Andrew Vaughan.
Amazing. Yeah, he actually talked about teachers being paid more back then.
Back in the day. Yes.
In 1927, he was thinking about that. That's pretty interesting. Now, if he was to be here today, he would know that teachers are not still getting paid enough.
Yes. Yeah. And I often think when I was going through the coursework to become a holistic neurogrowth learning success coach, and actually the fact that I put that whole string of things terms together feels like I succeeded. But when I was going through that, I often thought about my grandfather and thought, I hope he's looking down, seeing that I'm trying to impact children in a different way that's meeting the needs of society, because it's definitely a different animal than it was even when I started my career 30 some years ago.
If you think about it, we create all the people in the world, right? As teachers, we are the foundation for their beginning.
Yeah.
Elementary foundation and everything. But teachers are not, currently teachers are not happy, many of them.
Mm-hmm.
Currently, many of them are underpaid. The economy is doing very poorly, but teachers are being underpaid. And many teachers hold at least sometimes 3-4 jobs.
Right. Yeah.
Right. And summertime, they don't even take a break because they're looking for summer job.
Right. Or taking coursework just to maintain their certification.
Yeah, that too. Yeah, you have to do continuing education.
Yeah, that's the truth.
Yeah. And then that you pay for it sometimes. It's not, school doesn't pay for that either, right? Some teachers are paying from their pocket. So there's a lot that your grandfather, envisioned back then, but it's still not there yet. So in terms of your business, tell us what do you offer students right now in this program as a holistic neurogrowth learning success coach?
Well, because my background is I wouldn't say primarily, but strongly in literacy skills, I'm currently offering reading and writing to elementary age students. And
why do you believe that there's a power of pencil? What is the power of the pencil? What does that mean?
Well, it has two completely different meanings, but all tied to this job. When we're measuring kids' literacy skills, it seems that we really focus on the reading because it's measurable. You can get a nice little number and report that to admin or report that to the state. And but I really feel like the pencil is where the power comes from for 1,000 reasons. If you really want to measure whether a child's truly getting a skill, getting a phonic skill, so to speak, if they can write it, then they're applying it. But we don't take it to that level so much. So in some ways, I just feel like we're missing the boat. And I believe it's because writing skills are not as easily measured. So we don't do it. So in addition to just the phonic element and getting kids to, be spellers or construct sentences, that power of the pencil is also what can be an intrinsic motivator for kids. It's the opportunity for the kids to have voice. And one of my favorite things to teach was writing because we used a writing process. And I was not telling the students that they had to write about this or they had to write about that. They got to choose what they wrote about. And I felt like that was extremely powerful. If it was worth being written down, then it was going to be something for someone else to read. So I would take the kids through the writing process. They would draft maybe 3 or 4 pieces. And then after that, they would select one to take to publication. And in my classroom, I would always, most of my time was spent a quick little teaching point that kids then would try to apply if it went along with their piece. But most of my time was spent having little conferences one-on-one with students to advance that particular piece they were working on, or help them get unstuck with something. But then, so every 3 or 4 pieces of writing would get published. And when I say published, we created these little, I call them wallpaper books, but they were really contact paper books that got stapled in, and they wound up becoming part of our school or our classroom reading library. So at independent time, the kids are off reading each other's work. So they really got to see themselves as authors. So there was this intrinsic motivation to write because it gave them voice. And so I think we're missing the power in the pencil in our classrooms today. And from the analytical part of being able to see what skills the kids have, but also from developing the person, helping them see who they are.
Yeah.
So that's what I mean when I say the power of the pencil.
You think most of them are now typing? They're not writing by pencil?
I think there's probably a combination of both, but I don't think there's enough teachers that are confident enough in teaching writing to really kind of let the kids have the free rein. I think there's too much, this is your topic, here's what you write about.
Yeah, and then also the curriculum dictates, I guess, a little bit too much.
A little bit. It does, but you can accomplish that by still giving kids, as long as you
options.
Teach the genre, you can teach the grammar, you can teach the punctuation and all of those things. You can teach them how to do a narrative or a opinion, but with choice.
Yeah. So intrinsic motivation it's not something you just get it in a couple of days, right? It takes time.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's a holistic process, and it has to come organically, very organically. It will happen for every child, but it takes time. So if a parent is watching us right now, what would you say, like, why are more and more students struggling to read now? What's going on? I
really honestly think what you were saying earlier about the busyness of life is interfering. So kids are not getting the lap time book read to them like they used to. They're in front of the television or their gadgets, and so they're missing out on some of the organic experience of literature, because to me that's where it all began. You get that sense of how cool a story is. You get that bonding time with an adult, and the conversation that comes through the book sharing. So right from the beginning we're missing that.
So go back to the basics. Read to your kids.
Yeah. We're noticing in schools, kids are coming with much more speech difficulties than before. And that's the direct correlation for children not having conversations. The time even though they may be hearing voices on their computer devices or their screen, it's not the same. You're not acquiring that vocabulary, and you're not acquiring it the same way as you do when it's face to face. So I think that's been a tragedy for kids, and their speech is being affected by that. And if their speech is, then their ability to hear sounds and words and decode and encode are going to be affected. So we do have to, as parents, we do have to be very mindful. Read to our kids is what you said first, right? Read the beginning stage. Absolutely, yes. Okay. And does it have to be long? Because sometimes parents think it has to be really long. It doesn't have to be. Even 10 minutes, right? Oh, absolutely. And for some age, that's extremely appropriate. Even up to a first grader, a 10-minute book is adequate. Kids love like the Elephant and Piggies and their quick reads. Yeah. Or even if you want to read a longer book, you can just chunk them into like 5. Yeah. Sure. Split the book up into five parts and 10 minutes, 5 times. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Even the other day when I was working with a student that I had, he came across the word sub and it didn't connect to him that the author meant a submarine. And so, just having that conversation that clarified that for him. And I've always said to kids that anytime you either have a book read to you or you read a book, you're changed. In some way, you are changed. You've either you can either have made a decision that you didn't like the book and then you evaluated it, but then you were critically thinking, so you're changed. If you love the book, then you'll justify it, or you'll learn some vocabulary. But every single book that you put in your hands has the capacity to change you in some way. I think that's incredible.
And it's like listening to another person's, like almost going into the other person or that story, right? Like you actually enter and then exit.
Yes, exactly.
You live it almost. So that's where the imagination comes, right? How did they solve this, or what happened there? Yeah, amazing. Like I never got read to me when I was young, but I did read a lot though by myself, because I didn't know, when I was bored, that's all I could do, or draw or doodle, right? These are things, because my parents weren't that good at reading or anything like that. But sometimes, even if you don't have time, encourage your kids to read, right, by themselves. Even
exactly,
take one of the iPad or TV time away and give them some books and leave books around. I heard that from some couple of people, that parents leave books around, and even the unschooling, homeschooling, world schooling parents always have books accessible to their kids, so that when they are bored, they can pick it up.
Yes, as a grandparent now, I have 4 grandchildren, and there's always books scattered in the back seat of our car.
There, because when they're bored, pick it up. They will automatically. Do they pick up?
Yes, they do. Can you hand me that, Nanny? Of course I can.
Yes. Kids are curious, right? We need to foster that curiosity by doing these things. And I mean, with my son, what I did is, of course, we read truck books. I knew all the trucks. I knew all the shark names. I knew a lot of the cars and all this when we were growing up, when he was growing up. And then we would sing in the car, like all the songs. I would have, at that time we had CDs, and then we would put that, and it was great. Like, they love it. They love it.
Yeah, so I was definitely the same way. I still do that. Make up songs. I actually make up songs to the dogs. It's just like a habit of creating little rhymes, and age appropriate songs are something that we don't get to experience as much. Parents are often just throwing on the radio, but there's just such learning capacity when you get those old-fashioned rhyming songs for kids to listen to.
Or make something up, silly.
Or make it up. Yeah,
make something silly up, and then they remember. And then I don't know if you did it. I used to read all the signs. If I'm in the car, that was the game we would play with my son. Is to let's see if you can read the next sign.
Exactly.
And those road trips, even shorter, to the grocery store, if they could read 5-6 signs on that way and back home, they've learned all those words, because that was experiential learning, right?
Absolutely. Actually, when I began teaching kids the concept of sight words, that was what I did. I snapshotted local places and put it in a book. They would recognize McDonald's. I said, what is this? McDonald's, or M&M's, things that I knew kids would be familiar with. And just to drive home the idea that you know what this word is because you recognize it by sight. You've seen it. Yeah. So that was kind of like an introduction to help kids understand sight words. So the signs, every child knew the word stop. Because of the signs.
Memory, right? The visuals.
Visual memory.
So you seem like a teacher who was very invested in the classroom, creating experiential learning. And that's what you want to bring out, I think, in your coaching now too.
Yes. And it kind of, the reflecting about how powerful the authentic hands-on learning was, it almost makes me wonder if down the road in my coaching, I might try to replicate something like that again.
Maybe even a small group coaching where, what you just explained. I started imagining being in your class when you were explaining earlier about the restaurant. Then we went to the grocery store. We looked at the ingredients. Then we made, placemats. And then we probably taught them how to set up the table. Like, how many kids know where to put the glass and where to put the fork and knife?
Yeah.
Many don't.
Yeah. We even had the news crew came to view that, and everybody on restaurant day, and it was the parents and administration who were invited, but this one little guy who happened to be the person to sweep up any of the dirt, he went on camera saying to the news crew that his job was to clean up in case somebody threw up.
That's awesome. So I guess you're still subbing, so you don't really miss the kids, but you want to create more meaningful connections. That's why you became a learning success coach. Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. It's more important for you. So how are you feeling in your business right now? Where are you in the business?
Well, I just have this one, and I'll be completely honest, right at the moment, until I get a little further in, that's good for me. I want to honor the process for him and make sure that I'm doing it to the best of my ability before I take in more. I do have several other tutoring opportunities, but they're not students that, it's just to kind of keep them reading over the summer. They're not students with tremendous deficits. So, but I'm anxious to, continue to develop a portfolio of students. Hopefully by next year, have upward of no more than 6 students. I feel like that would put me right over the edge to do more, because this one little guy is on my mind 24/7.
But when you add another one and another one, it kind of all, spread out.
Okay.
Right. It doesn't usually take, one person cannot take that much time, because, then you get more ideas from the other kids too, right?
That's true. Yeah. And I trust your process. It hasn't failed me yet.
Thank you. So if a parent is watching right now during the summer, what can they do, Elizabeth, for reading and writing? What can they do at home?
Repeated readings of things that kids enjoy is fantastic. I mean, our goal during the summer is really to not let that slide happen. And so fluency building is this is a great time for fluency building. And what I mean by that is when kids are reading at their independent level, meaning that it's not a difficult read, they're going to have the ability now to not have to think about what the words are. Now they get to work on their prosody and change their voices with the characters. So repeated readings of books that they love, not to say that they are not going to tackle new books, but include some of the independent ones. Writing is, to me, a no-brainer. Journaling, when we would travel with my own children growing up, when we would travel, so I didn't have to spend a lot of money on souvenirs, I would always allow them a postcard. So they would have to write something on the back of that to capture their feelings or facts or whatever they wanted to on the back. And the kids to this day have a huge ring of the places that they've gone. So it's a simple, quick thing to do.
Very cool. So they kept it all of their
Yes.
postcard means they went there and they had.
No, we went there. We did went across the United States 3 summers. Actually 6 summers in a row, we were traveling in a motorhome. So they got to see a lot of national parks. So you can only imagine with that kind of traveling, we would be stopping everywhere. I would have totally gone broke. So postcards satisfied them.
That's a very good idea. I never thought of it. So now they have, instead of just write, like I have had my son write about where we went, but why not get a little postcard for 50 cents or 25 cents and write it and keep a picture with it, right? Because it always comes with a nice place or something of that place, right? That he chose. The memory, right? And then now when he grows up, to be 17, 20, they go through it all and they might have a collection of it.
Correct. Yeah. And I did the same for myself, just so that I could share with my students as we went,
Nice.
Yeah. And a journaling, help moms make grocery lists, or in the house, have a whiteboard where if you notice that something is been consumed out of the refrigerator, then write that item on the little board so that you're participating in that kind of writing.
So small things, but they are powerful.
Yes.
But we just have to be very mindful on our daily life not to say I'm busy, because it's easy to say I'm busy and forget about these small moments. Like
Right.
if a milk goes out, if the child writes it, 5-6 times in their life, now they know how to spell it already.
Correct.
The milk, right?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Letters to grandparents, letters to relatives that are not local. It has floored me looking at the amount of letters that my parents in their generation would write, and of course my grandparents, which I am blessed to have. I still have all of these letters that were written back and forth, even at the time when my grandparents were dating and when my parents were dating, and just letters. Communication, because we didn't have email, but it's a perfect time for kids to write.
Absolutely.
Put something in the mail.
My mother-in-law, who just passed away last month, she had a very cool this gift card she would send back and forth between her friend, Christmas card. So she started this tradition. They passed back and forth. They would write it on a sticky note and place it inside the card. And there's they back and forth. They did it. I think it was 62 years they did it. 62 Christmas.
Oh, that is so cool.
Yeah. So she has this card. This is a small card, but then inside of it, there's like lots of sticky notes from back and forth between the two friends, right? So
I love that.
My husband's going to get it into the Guinness World because
Great.
I don't think anyone has done that. I'm not sure, but maybe not that many years. They kept it, both of them.
That is so amazing.
Yeah. So 2 years ago, she lost it because on the mail didn't come. That mail didn't bring back the letter. They've been mailing back and forth, right? So she would mail it and she would mail back. Her friend would mail it back. So she lost it and she was so disappointed that she lost the card.
Oh.
But in April, after Christmas was done, in April, the post office found it.
Oh.
And then brought it to her, gave it to her again. So it was never to be lost. It's kind of cool that she got it back.
Skip a year. That's so great. I love that.
Yeah. So she just passed away. So they did it all that year. That's a habit, right? That was a beautiful habit that they created, and it was passed. And can you imagine? We could start with our kids something like that, right? Send back and forth something between their friends or someone in the family. Now something to look back, and then that helps them write. And more importantly, it helps them write meaningful messages.
Yes.
And when my son left, my mother-in-law told him, take a little book and every day write one thing you did that is so amazing wherever you are. Like one thing, not a lot of things, but just one thing. She said, just keep writing it, and by the time you come back, you're going to have so many memories to talk about.
That is so neat. Yeah, and it is hard to, I guess I'm a little bit old school, and I'll be honest, I don't write handwritten letters because of the technology to communicate so much easier. But capturing a little journal of the emotions, or even taking that time to write somebody, it's a different dynamic. I think it's special.
But when kids get something in the mail, we all get excited, though, right?
Absolutely, for sure we do. Absolutely.
If there's one addressed to you in your name, you get excited.
Yes, of course.
So that's a good tradition, even if it's old school or not. That's what I'm saying, going back to the basics.
Yeah, that's right.
Like there's something about those little things that we did, even though we are not different. Like we have come to this place and we're in the world, but it's really important to go back to those, and it's an easy thing to do too, because it takes you off of the gadgets, as you said.
Yes. Yeah.
Anything else you want to share with the parents?
Yeah, well, as I was trying to think of how to help my one little student, I came across, I don't know if you've ever heard of the parable of the pencil.
No.
Have you ever heard of that? So it's a story about a guy who was a pencil maker, and have you heard that now? No. And before he put newly made pencil into the box, he said there's 5 things that you need to know. And he wanted the pencil always to remember this. So the first thing was, you're going to be able to do many great things, but only if you allow yourself to be held in someone's hand. Number 2, you'll experience a painful sharpening from time to time, but you'll need it to become a better pencil. 3, you'll be able to correct any mistakes you might make. 4, the most important part of you will always be what's inside. And 5, on every surface you are used on, you must leave your mark, no matter what the condition, you must continue to write.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's
So-
beautiful. And insight matters, right?
Absolutely. The inside matters.
And you'll leave a mark. That's beautiful. And that was written by the pencil maker. Like that's
The
what
pencil maker to his pencil. And so, we have to obviously take those applications and see ourselves as that pencil.
Yes. Yeah,
and-
there's comparison. Yeah, we can. That
Yeah.
is who we are. Each
That
of
is
us
who we
have the
are.
opportunity to write.
Yes. So I hope to help my little guy recognize those truths through the
Yes.
use of the pencil.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful. I'm so lucky. He's so lucky, and I'm so lucky that you came into our program. But also, he is very lucky because you're thinking about him 24/7. You said, I don't even know if his parents are.
I don't
thinking
think he
that much.
likes that too much.
You're gonna see a shift. That's the beauty of our program,
Yeah.
is that the children come in and they see like this is different, because we don't it's not tutoring, it's not teaching, it's more than that. So then they realize that this person really cares, because they want to be seen, as you said before. They want to be heard, they want to be seen,
Yeah.
and they want to feel connected. So this is what we do, right, as Holistic Neurogrowth Learning Success Coach. So thank you for coming into our world. You've been
Thank you,
amazing.
Kohila, for coming into mine. I mean, you've made
You're welcome.
a huge transformation in the coach life, and if that didn't happen, I don't think your program would be so powerful. You do it by example.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're incredible.
Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. Our purpose for this episode was to spark a reevaluation of the current education system. For more episodes offering practical and comprehensive strategies to enhance learning, please visit www.learningsuccessacademy.com. It is crucial to ensure that children have access to the holistic neurogrowth learning approach, enabling them to break free from the constraints of an outdated educational framework. This is your opportunity to gain insight and break away from a flawed system, setting your children on a path to lifelong success that truly nurtures their thirst for knowledge. That's all for now. We look forward to having you join us for the next episode.